The camera alert woke me at 3:07 a.m. Probably just a stray cat, I thought. But when I checked the feed, my stomach dropped. A woman stood at the door, drenched from the rain, staring straight into the lens. I rushed to wake my husband, only to find his side of the bed empty. That's when I recognized the woman. My husband's dead ex-wife. Before we dive into this shocking story, make sure to subscribe to Unfaithful Diaries for more real-life betrayals that will leave you speechless. My name is Eleanor, and for 5 years, I believed I had the perfect marriage. I met Frank at a time when my life felt like a blank slate, waiting to be rewritten. He was charming, stable, and everything I thought I needed. A man who had been through hell and just wanted a fresh start. At least, that's what he told me. Frank was a widower, or so he claimed. His first wife, Emily, had died in a tragic accident. A car crash. He didn't like to talk about it much, and I never pushed him. But every now and then, I'd catch something, an old letter tucked inside a book, his face darkening at the mention of her name, a hesitation when people asked how he had moved on so quickly. I ignored the red flags. Love makes you do that. Frank made me feel safe, adored. He'd bring me coffee in bed, text me goodnight if he was working late, and always made sure I never felt alone. We bought a beautiful house in a quiet neighborhood, the kind of place where nothing dramatic ever happened. It was peaceful. It was ours. Until that night. The night the doorbell camera changed everything. It was around 3:07 a.m. when my phone buzzed with a motion alert. Half asleep, I grabbed it from the nightstand, expecting to see a raccoon or maybe a stray cat. But when I checked the feed, my breath caught in my throat. A woman stood on our porch. She was drenched from the rain, hair plastered to her face, her eyes locked onto the camera. But it wasn't just her presence that sent a chill down my spine. It was her face. She looked exactly like Emily. I shot up in bed, my heart hammering against my ribs. This had to be some mistake. Emily was dead. I had seen the photos. The funeral announcement. There was no way, she could be standing outside my house. I turned to wake Frank, but his side of the bed was empty. At that moment, my body went cold. Not just fear, something deeper. A creeping realization that I had been living inside a lie, one I was about to unravel whether I was ready or not. I ran to the window, my hands trembling as I pulled back the curtain just enough to see outside. But the porch was empty. No footprints in the rain, no sign that anyone had ever been there. Just the dim glow of the street lamp and the faint rustling of leaves in the wind. Had I imagined it? I checked the camera footage again. The timestamp was clear, 3:07 a.m. The woman had been real. I hit replay, pausing at her face. My pulse pounded in my ears as I studied her features, so familiar, yet slightly different. Older. Worn down by time. If Emily had been alive, this is exactly how she would look now. I needed answers. But more than that, I needed to know where Frank was. I grabbed my phone and dialed his number. It rang, and then, voicemail. Frank, where are you? My voice cracked. Call me. Now. I threw on a sweater and tiptoed through the house, checking every room. The kitchen. The study. The garage. His car was still in the driveway, keys hanging by the door. So if he hadn't driven anywhere, where the hell was he? My stomach twisted. Frank had never once left in the middle of the night. Not without telling me. Not without a reason. And now, just minutes after a woman who shouldn't exist appeared on our porch, he was gone. I sat on the couch, gripping my phone, my mind racing. Maybe I was overthinking this. Maybe Frank had gone for a walk. Maybe the camera glitched. Maybe there was a logical explanation for all of this. But then I remembered something, a detail so small, I had almost missed it. The rain. When I saw Emily, or whoever she was, on the camera, she was soaked. Her coat, her hair, everything. But when I checked the porch just seconds later, there wasn't a single drop of water on the ground. Like she had never been there at all. A chill crept up my spine. Something was very, very wrong. And I was about to find out just how deep the lies went. I sat there, frozen, staring at the door. Every part of me screamed to move, to do something, but my body refused to cooperate. My mind raced through every possibility. Maybe it was just some stranger who resembled Emily. Maybe Frank had a perfectly good reason for being gone. Maybe this was all a misunderstanding. But deep down, I knew. This wasn't just a coincidence. I forced myself to stand and walked toward the front door. My fingers trembled as I unlocked it and swung it open. A gust of cold air rushed in, but the porch was empty. No footprints. No lingering presence. Nothing to suggest anyone had been standing there just minutes ago. Still, I couldn't shake the feeling that I was being watched. I turned back inside and locked the door, my heart hammering. That's when I noticed something strange. The closet door near the entrance was slightly ajar. Frank always insisted on keeping it shut. A lump formed in my throat. I swallowed hard and reached for the handle, my breath shallow. With one swift motion, I pulled it open. Empty. Just coats, shoes, and a few boxes. I let out a shaky breath. I was losing it. But then, just as I was about to close it, my eyes landed on something shoved in the back. A black duffel bag. Frank's duffel bag. My stomach twisted. He never used that bag. It just sat there, collecting dust, until now. I hesitated, then crouched down and unzipped it. What I found inside made my blood turn to ice. Stacks of cash. A passport. A set of car keys I didn't recognize. And a phone. Not Frank's phone. A burner phone. My hands trembled as I picked it up. The screen was cracked, but when I pressed the power button, it lit up. No passcode. Just an open text message from an unsaved number. 3:07 a.m., I saw you. I nearly dropped the phone. Saw who? Frank? Me? The woman outside? My mind reeled. I scrolled through the messages, my pulse pounding. Most of them were short. You lied. I remember everything now. I'm coming. A cold shiver ran down my spine. I needed to find Frank. Now. I grabbed my keys and rushed to my car. As I backed out of the driveway, I noticed something in my rearview mirror. Across the street, a dark-colored sedan sat idling, headlights off. I didn't recognize the car. And worse, the moment I pulled out, it pulled out too. I swallowed my fear and kept driving. First, I tried calling Frank again. Voicemail. Then I tried tracking his location through our phone-sharing app. Location services were turned off. Damn it. There was only one place I could think to go. The cabin. Frank had a small cabin an hour outside of town. It was supposed to be a getaway spot, but we barely used it. He always said it was his place to clear his head. If he was hiding somewhere, it would be there. The drive felt endless. The whole time, I kept glancing in my rearview mirror. The sedan followed me the entire way, never speeding, never getting too close, just watching. By the time I reached the woods, my hands were slick with sweat. The cabin was dark, but Frank's car was parked outside. He was here. I took a deep breath and stepped out. The moment my foot hit the gravel, the sedan that had been following me sped up. It didn't stop. It kept going. Whoever had been watching me, they weren't after me. They were after Frank. I ran to the cabin, my heart pounding. The door was locked. I banged on it. Frank. Open the door. Silence. Frank, I swear to God. A creak. Then, finally, the door opened a crack. Frank's face appeared, pale and covered in sweat. His eyes darted behind me. Eleanor, what are you doing here? What am I doing here? I shoved the duffel bag in his chest. You tell me what the hell this is. His face turned ghostly white. Where did you? The closet. My voice shook. What the hell is going on, Frank? He opened his mouth, then froze. His gaze flickered past me. I turned. Standing at the edge of the woods was her. The woman from the camera. The woman who looked like Emily. Only this time, I saw her clearly. She wasn't just similar to Emily. She was Emily. Alive. Breathing. And looking right at Frank with an expression I had never seen before. Hate. You really thought you could bury the past, didn't you? Emily's voice was sharp, venomous. Frank staggered backward. No. No, this isn't possible. I looked between them, my head spinning. Someone start explaining. Now. Emily stepped forward. Did he ever tell you the full story of my accident? Her eyes gleamed. Because I remember it now. Every single detail. Frank's breathing was ragged. Emily, please. You tried to kill me. The words hit the air like a thunderclap. My stomach twisted. What? Emily's lip curled. He cut my brakes, Eleanor. He planned everything. He wanted me to die. I turned to Frank, my chest tight. Tell me she's lying. Frank's face crumbled. His silence was the only answer I needed. Oh my God, I whispered. I had married a monster. Frank's eyes darted to the woods. Emily, we can fix this. Just let me. A gunshot rang out. Frank stumbled, his hands gripping his side. Blood seeped through his fingers. He gasped, dropping to his knees. I spun, eyes wide. Emily stood there, gun in hand. Her hands didn't shake. Her face didn't flinch. This, she whispered, stepping closer, is for everything you took from me. Frank tried to speak, but another shot echoed through the trees. This time, he collapsed completely. Dead. The silence that followed was deafening. Emily turned to me, lowering the gun. He was never going to stop, Eleanor. Her voice was softer now. I just finished what he started. My legs felt weak. I should have run. Screamed. Called the cops. But I just stood there, staring at the man I thought I loved. And I realized, Emily wasn't the villain here. She was the karma Frank never saw coming. As sirens wailed in the distance, I exhaled a breath I hadn't realized I was holding. Maybe, just maybe, this was the ending Frank deserved.